Congressman Stephen Lynch is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. He holds the center in a delegation that leans to the left. As he seeks a new term, does this former iron worker see a bridge in the partisan divide? The candidate is here this morning. Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Sharman Saketi. As you can see, Janet Wu was off this weekend, and with us is Massachusetts Congressman Stephen Lynch. He represents the state's 8th congressional district, first taking office back in 2001. His committee assignments include oversight and transportation. There's a key thing we might be talking about this morning. The Democrat from South Boston also served the Massachusetts House and Senate. He holds degrees from Wentworth Institute of Technology, BC, and Harvard. It's great to see you as always, sir. Thank you for your time.
Good to be with you.
Oh. Thanks for being here. So let's start right out with the MBTA. You serve on the Transportation Committee. There isn't a bigger story right now than what's going on with the Orange Line. What is your take on this crisis?
Well, I had an opportunity to do a full briefing yesterday with the MBTA and the Department of Transportation. I would say that I'm nervous. I'm nervous about Monday, about what might happen there with the shutdown of the Orange Line and the construction on the Green Line as well. I'm also nervous about the first week of school for Boston Public Schools and the colleges and some of the municipalities around Boston, which are also affected.
Do you think there should continue to be this sort of idea of enhanced federal oversight, that the feds, after they release their report at the end of the month, shouldn't go away?
Absolutely. I actually asked the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, if there was some type of quasi-receivership process that they might use to come in and actually exercise the powers that you just alluded to. They said that they prefer to work with the local transit authority, and that's the position they've taken thus far. But if we can't get this together,
But you were advocating for a receivership.
Oh, absolutely.
How come?
Because there are 900 vacancies on the MBTA, and we can't get skilled electricians and ironworkers and bricklayers and other tradespeople on the property. There's no way, and I mean, this goes right down to the trackmen, laborers, and conductors. We had to scale back service because they didn't keep a ready reserve of people who can actually work as dispatchers to this sort of the air traffic controllers of the train system.
This is very much at the foundation of the problem, no?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
That's at the core of it. Should the T be free during the shutdown? Should the T be free regardless of shutdown?
Here's the problem. Okay, so you've got 50 states and several territories that all get money from the transportation budget. If we declared ours free, I think there would be tremendous pressure from those other jurisdictions. So it would be very difficult for me to bring transportation money back to Massachusetts when our commuters are not paying for that. There's no recompense for that. I think other states would be jealous that our transportation system is free. So that's a problem. But during this shutdown, if people show their Charlie card, merely show it on the commuter rail, it will be tantamount to being free during this shutdown. So there are a lot of benefits that the T is trying to extend to commuters to mitigate the impact of this and the inconvenience. However, if you're driving to a garage and parking your car and getting on the MBTA or commuter rail, you're still going to have to pay for that.
All right, so Monday morning's the real test.
Tomorrow morning, the real test, and it's the first real test, right? The first real commute that puts the pressure on both the orange and the green. Don't forget both of them.
That's right.
All right, we could talk about that for the whole half hour, but let's talk about this. The fallout from the FBI search at former President Donald Trump's Florida home. From what you know, did the Justice Department do the right thing by searching Mar-a-Lago?
They did.
They did.
They did. They did. Remember how this started. So there was a presidential records request investigation to try to get documents from Mar-a-Lago. When President Trump presented the 15 boxes, when they examined what was in the boxes, they realized there were a lot of classified and top secret materials in there. So then there was an attempt to get that material, and there was obstruction on the part of the president's attorneys and the president himself. So that's what led the FBI into this interdiction and investigation. That's what caused it.
In the wake of it, House Republicans have lashed out at the FBI agents that they have faced threats, the agents themselves. So it's a strong supporter of law enforcement that you are. What do you say to them? What do you say to them?
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Yeah. for going after rank and file FBI agents who have been directed by their superiors and pursuant to judges' instructions as well. Remember, this went to a court and they approved, the request for obtaining those records and basically empowered the FBI to go in there. They knew the facts. Some of those will come out as these documents become available, but you shouldn't be going after our FBI agents for doing their job.
We didn't hear from Merrick Garland for days after that. Do you think he should have come out earlier? Could the administration have anticipated what we saw at FBI offices around the country?
In hindsight, yes. I think, for the most part, I think you'll agree, Merrick Garland has tried to keep a low profile on this. He's tried to stay on the down low on this, but I think it's unavoidable. He has to take a position.
All right, what about Liz Cheney? Now, she was crushed in her primary. She says she won't stop holding former President Trump to account, and also floated the idea that she is thinking about a potential run for president. What do you think, first of all, does this say about the state of the Republican Party right now?
Very sad. So even though I am directly opposed to most of the positions that she's a very, very conservative Republican, she is that, but a hard worker, diligent, courageous, heroic in terms of the stand that she has taken. So while I don't necessarily agree with Liz Cheney, I respect her very, very much. And I respect that she stood up for the Constitution when it hit the fan.
She knew the consequences, though.
Oh, she did. She knew quite well. I mean, she's an astute politician. She knew what the feelings of the Republicans in Wyoming were. And yet she did what she thought was right and is paying the consequences. I'm not sure that a presidential campaign has legs for her. Running against someone, as a candidate, you try to reflect the positive. You run for something, and I'm just leery that running against the president may, in fact, if it with one more candidate in the field, it may actually help the former President Trump in those elections if there were several candidates splitting up the so-called anti-Trump vote.
The next thing we'd like to talk about is the Inflation Reduction Act. President Biden signed it last week. From climate to drug prices, a bill does a lot of things. None of them would have been possible without party moderates like Manchin and Sinema. You've always been a centrist yourself. Is this how you get things done in a divided D.C.?
It is.
It is,
and narrowly. This was a really tight vote. It came down to 1 or 2 votes. So even on the House side, we have an advantage of 9 seats. The Democrats do. So sometimes the progressives have voted off, and that's been very, very difficult. So yeah, this was really. I give the president great credit on this. I would say that the $300 billion that is being spent on climate change, resiliency and reduction, incentivizing electric vehicles. A lot of companies here in Massachusetts and New England are in that industry, so it's a real boon to us. And I also think it's the first meaningful step that we've really taken in an urgent sense of addressing climate change and decarbonization, if you will.
Would you expect it to produce something? Would you expect it to actually be followed through and produce something?
Oh, absolutely. So, in the original version, I had a bill that would have given $8 billion to the Postal Service to convert all their vehicles. Now they're the second most vehicles in the government. The DOD has more, but 287,000 postal vehicles, all diesel, gas, older models, real gas guzzlers. This bill actually provides $3 billion to go electric on those vehicles, plus the charging station infrastructure as well. So think about that. Think of all the post offices in Massachusetts and across the country that'll have charging stations, that vehicles will now be electric. You have communities that are struggling with asthma and things like that. This will make a real difference.